Purpose of being here is to conduct the reorganization of the committee. Can I, oh, I'm supposed to come to the microphone? Seems to me I heard that line before. And after that, your agenda has been sent out. I want to thank all of you for coming. I understand Mr. Mitchell has been hospitalized, and that's why he wasn't last month, or was supposed to have been hospitalized. He had surgery. I think he had removed part of his foot, so that's the last I heard from him, anyways. Also, I have distributed member lists. Please check to see if everything is correct, especially email addresses. And any other things that may be incorrect, such as address, street address, telephone numbers.
Don't see it.
What's that?
Not present. The member list?
Oh, oh, all right.
Anybody else?
That far. Any more? Need more?
Anybody could just pass that.
One more? One more, Howie?
All right. All right, now the pile is right. So with that, we begin. First thing we'll do is nominate, take nominations for chairman.
I nominate Barbara Anzavino.
Now, you can second, but we don't vote on unless it's a unanimous thing. We have a ballot. Are there any other nominations? Okay. All those in favor of Mrs. Anzavino for chairman? Okay. Oh, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Or abstain? So it was, since there's 13 members present, there were 12 in favor and 1 abstain. Nominations for vice chairman.
I nominate John Nally.
Any other?
Peter Brown?
Peter Brown. Any further nominations? Well, that makes things easy. In all fairness, so that we can have a secret ballot and personalities won't get into this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are glued together.
Close your eyes.
Now, we don't have the electronic voting, so I won't put a timer up that says you've got 30 seconds. I'm going to ask our secretary to go and pick up the ballots. Fortunately, I don't have a box or anything. Did you get it? Oh, okay. The count is 9 for Brown, and how many for? 4 for Mr. Malley. So Peter Brown. And now the last is for the secretary or clerk, so anybody holding a pen or a pencil should cover it over. So, any nominations for secretary clerk? Any other? There being no other nominations, all those in favor of Mr. Malley, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There being no opposition, I will declare it a vote. Congratulations, John. So that completes my official duties. I congratulate all of you. It's a challenge to actually have a whole new, almost a whole new organization in the sense that we have quite a few new members. I do know that there is in the works a special town meeting. No dates yet officially given to me. And that we'll know about. The other is, I'm bringing it to attention now, that on the 28th, I will be organizing the other standing committees. It worked out very well last year when we did a night just for doing that function, because then we knew exactly how many were on the committee and would be prepared to, when the hearing nights come, to go right into the business of the hearings rather than tie up organizing and so on. So other than that, I'm going to pass the gavel. This one comes back. That's the official one. The moderator. Do you have anybody got any other questions? It's all yours, Barbara.
Thank you, Howard. Okay.
We have to open the meeting.
Motion to open the meeting.
Okay, all those in favor of opening our regular meeting, say aye. Aye. Okay, good. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is the request for transfer for the new IT person. I think everybody got the information. You have it in hard copy, and most of us got it over email. There was a bunch of questions that came up, and we did receive answers for those questions. Does anybody have any more questions that they'd like to? Well, why don't we start with who's going to present this for us? Would you like to do a little presentation, and then we can ask questions?
Thank you. For the record, the superintendent would have liked to have been here tonight, but she is ill, so she could not be here. She has offered to be phoned in. I told her I didn't think it was necessary. Relative to what Mr. Hanson said, just to inform the committee, the board will be meeting next Thursday evening and will be opening a warrant for a special town meeting that will take place on November 18th, which is a Wednesday. The request is for a new IT position who will assume primary responsibility for working with town departments on both ends of Pearl Street to implement the Munis financial data system that the town purchased. It was originally thought that this could be accomplished with existing IT staff. We have since discovered that it's not working. It's taking a great deal of time. The assistant director of IT has been assigned. The way the process works is that there has to be one project manager for the town. That project manager is in fact an employee of the school department. And then there are functional projects managers for each program. Each of those is a town employee. Essentially, we have two choices. We can go to the November 16th town meeting. Well, actually, three choices. Go to the November 16th town meeting with an article to hire a consultant to do this at somewhere between $75 and $100 an hour, or we can hire an employee to do it at $35 an hour. We have chosen to come to you and ask for an appropriation to hire an employee at $35 an hour for the balance of this fiscal year, and then put it in the budget. In terms of potential options, the special town meeting could include an article to replenish your reserve fund. It could also include an article to fund this position. However, since school has started, very little has happened on installation of the Munis system because the IT department simply doesn't have the time. It's going to take a total, probably another 2.5 to 3 years to finish the installation of this system. So that's where we stand.
Okay, John?
So this has not gone through the Board of Selectmen. This is an internal hiring decision you guys are doing? It has not, the Board of Selectmen didn't, you didn't talk with the Board of Selectmen about doing this, this is internally?
No, this was originally going to start out, it was going to be an amendment to the superintendent's budget because she has the IT department. There is an IT line item in the town budget. It's up to the finance committee if they chose to appropriate the money where to put it. But technically, it was going to be a position within the school department reporting to Ryan McGee, who is the chair, the head of that IT department.
Because you're saying we could either do it this way or we can, at town meeting, do an article. And I think by waiting to town meeting, at least the Board of Selectmen is kind of weighing in on it, by whether they want to insert an article or not, or the parameters of what they want to do. I mean, I don't see that it has to be done. I mean, we're having a special town meeting in 2 months.
Well, what it means, John, is that nothing will happen with Munis for the next 2 months.
I can't believe nothing would happen with it. I mean, you bought this system knowing what it had to do with it. I mean, absolutely nothing's done. It just seems crazy.
Well,
It's like every time we have a problem, our
again,
solution is to
a-
hire another person, and we seem to keep hiring more and more
It was
people.
originally thought that the existing IT staff could do this. I can assure you there is nobody on the town side that can do it. We don't have anybody that has that level of expertise. Right now, there are only 2 people in the town that have that expertise. That's the director of IT and the assistant director of IT. And the assistant director of IT has been doing it, but now that the school year has started, she has significantly less time she can devote to the project.
It just seems like that keeps being our solution, is to hire people, and just, I feel like it's getting out of control. But that's all I have.
Roberta?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through you to the town manager, did we actually purchase the software for the system?
Yes, we have.
So if it's going to take 2 to 3 years to have the system up and running, won't there be updates and major changes in the configuration of the system before we actually have it up and running completely?
The financial package is up and running now. The HR package is scheduled to be up and running January 1st. It will be delayed if we are unable to get the IT support. And the revenue package will be scheduled to start installation with an effective date of 7/1/16. That will be followed by the utilities package on 7/1/17. And on 1/1/18, it will be followed by the permitting package.
So through you, Madam Chairman, please. Does this mean the dates that you're giving me are the dates that were the dates that you anticipated at the time that you thought that you had enough IT people available to make the implementation?
The dates have been modified by 6 months. They've been extended by 6 months since we started. So the timeframe has been the same. The dates have not been the same.
So if in fact we considered Mr. Mally's recommendation to have an article in the town meeting as opposed to a transfer, what would that do to your implementation dates? Just simply put them ahead forward 2 months for each of those?
To put it bluntly, it would create a giant mess, because right now, we're moving from Harper's, which, if you'll recall, will save us $45,000 a year. We currently pay Harper's to do our payroll. We will start the new payroll on January 1st. And waiting another 2 months has the potential of delaying going over to the new payroll for 2 months, which means we have 2 more months to pay for Harper's. And it just delays the problem that much longer. It means that we would have a W-2 and 1099s coming out of one system, and W-2s and 1099s coming out of another system. And somebody would have to build a bridge between the two systems. On the other hand, if we convert 16, we would not have to build that bridge.
One last question, please. Through you to the town manager. It doesn't, why wasn't the complexity of the system understood so that when we had the town meeting last year, we did not make provision to have enough people on board to implement this in a timely fashion? A 3-year implementation is a long, long time.
I guess I would refer you to the superintendent's message on the back.
I read it.
And this was, the implementation schedule was worked out with IT, and at that time, we felt we had sufficient IT support in order to go ahead. It has just been in the last couple of months that we have discovered that it's just not working.
So IT support then did not completely understand the requirements of the system is what my conclusion is. Thank you very much.
I'm not certain that's a fair statement.
Peter?
Question I was going to ask, excuse me, that you had answered about the Munis. I guess we're still paying Harper's for their services. How many IT staff are committed in both sides of town, about total?
I believe there's an IT director and an assistant IT director, and she's the one who's been working probably all summer long, 90% of her time on Munis. And then I believe there are 4 technicians. I believe there are 4 technicians. They're staffed for 4 technicians.
And most of them are dedicated to the school side, is that where, because I can't find I know the budget item is.
In theory, we own 10% of the director's time, 10% of the assistant director's time, and 1.5 technicians. I don't think anybody's ever taken a look at, do we get the 1.5 technicians? I know that when we call them, they're very responsive, so there's not an issue there. One way or the other, it's town dollars that are paying for them, whether it's my budget or Maggie's budget. You know, the issue for us is that we don't have anybody here that can do it. And you're talking about a position, according to the IT director, that is above the competency level of the technicians. This is not a technical, this is a working with the software, setting up workflow, a whole variety of tasks.
And I understand, and thank you, Madam Chair, but one of the things, I just want to make one note about hiring. And I discovered that according to a document, September 29, 2010, that was signed on, as of January 1st, 2009, we had an OPEB of $117 million. I know that doesn't have to be funded. Where do we stand with that right now, about other post-employment benefits in what we would owe? Because I'm getting concerned that we're growing numbers, and it might come a time where we're not going to be able to actually.
Well, first off, as Mr. Hill used to point out, when he was chairman, that number is not relevant unless we go bankrupt. I don't anticipate we're going bankrupt. That number is really only relevant in the private sector, but it was a change in the national accounting standards that required that we had to carry it on the books.
Right.
The last I believe, and Mr. Kelly's not here, but I think it was in the vicinity of $22 million was our
22 million.
was our, what they call OPEB liability. If you recall last annual town meeting, We did, in fact, with the assistance of this committee, create an OPEB fund, and we made a nominal donation, if you will, to that fund. But the reality is that I agree with Mr. Hill. It's not really relevant unless we go bankrupt, and we're not going bankrupt tomorrow or the
Well,
next week.
I agree with that, but I would caution us to say that it's only not relevant because we don't have to fund it at this point. There may come a time when the law changes and we do have to fund it.
Well,
Or
we
have-
do fund it, Peter. We are on a pay-as-you-go system. So if you take a look at the $10 million that the town spends approximately on health and medical benefits, $3 million of it goes to retirees. So we are in fact funding it.
Okay.
We're
And you
just
said that
funding
was-
it on a pay-as-you-go.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, John?
The software package, it didn't come with a training and implementation support?
It comes with training and implementation support, but it requires in-house staff to act as a project manager. And what most towns have done is hired a staff person to do it or assigned it to their IT department. We started out, we assigned it to the IT department. There was a belief on the behalf of the IT department that they could handle it. We have subsequently discovered they cannot.
Once it gets up and running, does the need for this person go away? Once we get, so my point is, maybe we should hire a consultant, or maybe Munis has somebody, and it might cost a lot the first year, but, you know, then
Well, I guess,
the expense should dwindle, and we're not left with continuing to pay health and benefits
I guess the way I would look at
and
it
unemployment and that
is
sort of
that it goes away after a period of time. Unemployment is, the maximum is $575 a week, which we pay for 26 weeks. If you want to take a look at a cost-benefit analysis, it's cheaper to hire the staff,
But
especially when you're
a
looking at,
dedicated consultant who's an expert on this stuff, I would expect to get the job done in a more limited amount of time rather than over 3 years. And then,
you're correct in assuming that there might be less time per week, but not less time overall. The schedule cannot be speeded up. It's just not possible. This is the same schedule that they have used in virtually every other town. It's a 2 to 3 year process. The only thing we could have done that we were unable to do is we could have installed finance and revenue at the same time. It was the recommendation of the IT staff and the vendor that we install them 2 separate years. So that's what we chose to do. So right now, all the accounts payable is being handled through Munis, but all the revenue is still being handled through the old legacy system, as is utilities.
Chair. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the town manager. I'll tell you what my concern is. First, I can understand the need, and I can understand the thought process of not delaying the implementation to try and get the system working. Obviously, everybody involved felt it was the better way to go to get everybody on one system, and money will be saved down the line. As you said, it's costing you $45,000 for Harper's. My concern is actually having this committee create a permanent position, which if you put that person in now for the next 9 months or 6 months, depending on when you actually get a hire, and then it would be, you know, coming back to town meeting next May, where there is a special coming up in October, I'd really, or November, I'd prefer to see the position be asked for at that time. And my question would be, could you possibly get funding for an employee that's on a temporary basis and then see what happens with town meeting going forward? Because you could set up that special to be looking either for a permanent staff employee or hiring a consultant if that's what it takes at that time. But That's my main concern now, is actually creating a position that town meeting never had an opportunity to speak on, especially when you're figuring this is going to be a 2 to 3 year position anyway, and then you know you're going to look to keep the person at that point. So that's my main concern. I understand the need and the want, but that's why I'm wondering if there's any way to present it in that fashion, to make it on a temporary basis.
I guess it is possible that we could, with an appropriation, a smaller appropriation from the Finance Committee, do a temporary hire to keep things doing and going, and then it would be a modification to the school department's budget. Because again, they carry the balance of IT. If they chose to put it in my budget, it would be no big deal, but it's really a modification of Maggie Rizzi's budget rather than mine. So you could do that. I'm in a position right now, if I wanted to hire a consultant, I could hire a consultant out of the article. The article itself that funds this allows the hiring of a consultant. But then I think in the long run, we'll run out of money in that article, and we'll have to amend that article. So again, from our perspective, when the superintendent and I sat down and talked about it, we figured the most cost-effective way for the town was to do it through staff. And if we have to lay the staff off at the end of 3 years, we lay the staff off. On the other hand, she may in fact find another position for that person over the course of 3 years through attrition.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, I'm looking, and I know you mentioned you could possibly look to refund the Finance Committee's reserve fund. Because my concern now is we've already spent $70,000.
Well, that's my concern,
This
John.
is,
We're sitting here in the first
to go
quarter
round figures,
asking
we're
you to
talking
spend half
50,
your
that's
money.
120. We're almost halfway through the reserve, and we're not even a quarter away through the fiscal year.
Right.
And that
That's-
is a concern, because in the
and
past, we
it was
always
a
have.
concern I had, it's a concern the superintendent has. We decided to go forward recognizing full well that there would be concern. If I were a member of the committee, I would be concerned. You're spending half your money during the first quarter, which is why I pointed out you do have the option of asking the special town meeting to replenish your reserve fund.
And my only question with that would be, are there funds available?
There are funds available. We will be, we are getting funds in through FEMA. We are, and we have not set the tax rate yet, so in a conversation with the, anticipating your question, in a conversation with the assessor and with the accountant, there is tax levy available. Unfortunately, the FEMA money that comes in will be used the following fiscal year as free cash. When this started out, the superintendent's point was, look, we're giving back over $250,000, just take some of that money. And I said, well, it doesn't work that way. It might in your house, but here it doesn't. We can't tap that money until the following fiscal year. So anything left over from fiscal 15 can't be spent until fiscal 17, as you know.
Right. All right, thank you.
Elliot?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Has there been a job description and a performance standard drawn up for this IT professional?
There has been one by the IT director. I do not have a copy of it with me tonight.
I kind of like the previous speaker's idea of a temporary one, and if that person works out, it could become, a permanent position, but we'd have to know, because I know at one time or another we had an IT professional who was not very good, and I certainly don't want to repeat that.
Yeah, the salary for this person, the 48.5 is based on a salary of 70,000, which is what Ryan, the IT director, felt would be competitive to get us the person we need who has the software skills. Again, as I said earlier, our technicians are great with hardware, but we really only have 2 folks who do software.
Thank you.
Okay, Ed?
Yeah, is this working? Okay. Currently at the school department, who runs the old software or whatever? Who's in charge, or what do they do to get the numbers and all that sort of thing? Does anybody know that?
They have a business manager?
And how come he's not doing the munis?
He is.
He is.
He is, but his specialty is not IT. Again, this is a person, I'm forgetting Charlie's last name, but they have a new business manager. His first name's Charlie. I can't remember his last name. I think it's Mulcahy, but I could be wrong. He's doing the less than technical parts. There's a whole row here for the technical staff on the IT that deals with setting up workflow. This whole system operates on workflow. When it's fully installed, it will give us a great deal of data that we don't currently have, which we hope will in the future allow us to plan based on data and facts. The other problem, as the superintendent pointed out, the product we are installing is a product available by Tyler Technologies. They are currently, their old product is a Tyler Technology product. We thought it would be much easier to do the transition between one and the other, and as she points out in her memo here, that part's not working. That part has turned out to be a bigger problem at the other end of Pearl Street than the trouble we're having here.
Well, at the end of the day, when the thing's up and running, who's going to be doing the munis input? The business manager or these technician guys, or, you know, when we're all said and done, who's going to be, you know, doing the input or getting information and blah, blah, blah?
Well, there will always be a role in any software we buy for IT, but in terms of the mechanics of using the system, it will be the business manager at the school department and his staff. And here it will be the various departments. Every department does their own entering and uses the system. It all comes in in a warrant form to the accountant's office, and the accountant prepares a warrant that the Board of Selectmen signs. In the case of the school department, the business manager prepares a warrant that is signed by the school committee and then is sent to the town and then subsequently signed by the members of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
That's
this,
the process.
the Harper's payroll number, we're supposed to save, I don't know, X or Y, whatever it is, how much is budgeted this year for that service? Is 45,000 budgeted?
It's 45,000 per annum. So in this particular fiscal year, if we are able to get the Munis payroll system up and running by January 1st, we will save $22,500 out of Munis. Excuse me.
Is there any way to
out of Harper's.
encumber some of that to get a consultant for 2 months to go to town meeting for the permanent position or something along those lines?
Whether or not we can get a consultant in that short of a time, I don't know. We would have to do a competitive placement for a consultant because this is not an exempt service, which means we would have to do a recruitment in accordance with Chapter 32, 30B, excuse me, not 32, and that may take us as long as 6 weeks.
And this position, is it going to be a union position? And if it is it on the school side, administrative side, how that might work?
Sitting here right now, Ed, I don't know if this is a union position on the school side. I'm not able to answer that question. Regardless of whether it were, all of the contracts the school department has allows them to lay off employees who are no longer needed. They may have different time frames than we have, but they are allowed to lay their employees
Well,
off.
I'm just a little concerned if we, things are getting a little tight on the budget side, and, I don't know if it's first in, first out, or last in, first out sort of thing, but I'd hate to get something going and then we have to do something about it later. Be a waste of all that training time and everything, so.
Well, that's why I can't commit for the superintendent, but I think just since I've been here for 3 years, the overturn that I have seen in the IT department would indicate that this person could probably move into a different position over time, just based on attrition.
Because I'm of the opinion, if refer it to town meeting, let them discuss it, but I think if we get a consultant in some way for a few months, or even beyond town meeting time, they can decide that. And if you got the money in your article, I'd rather take it out of the software article and the dollars for now, and then see what town meeting wants to do. That's how I see it.
But then town meeting will be looking at 2 issues. One will be replenishing that article, and the second will be the position.
Yeah, but that's not gonna be this year. You got hundreds of thousands in that account. It's gonna take more than 1 year to burn that all
No,
up.
we would have to amend the article you have to remember, the article was for 750,000. But we have spent already well over 600,000. In fact, I think the number is closer to 700,000.
And what, is that already encumbered, or have you already 50,000 left for the rest of the year? How are you looking at that?
We are making payments. We have a certain obligation to the vendor, depending upon how much training time we use. So right now, for example, we do not know how much training time it's going to take to train people on the HR and the payroll package, because that training hasn't started. That training will start in November. So I'm not in a position now to tell you how much money we'll have left in that article. I don't know.
Okay, and one other question. Last year, all those new positions that we created at the school department, have those been funded for this year and actually people working in those jobs?
I believe they have, yes.
I was just wondering, because a lot of that turnback
Although I think
was that money
I
that
think-
wasn't used.
I think in last year's budget, she only came in with 3 new people. The other positions you're talking about, I think were actually from the budget the year before. I believe when she made her presentation, she said she only had 3 new people for the current fiscal year, which started July 1.
Yeah, because we were funding like 4 or 5 positions and didn't get funded for that last year.
But I think
and
those
then-
were actually positions that the school committee chose not to fill and then changed their mind and chose to fill. But they were actually from the previous fiscal year, not the current budget. But they are in the current budget.
Yeah, they're in the
That's your
current
question.
budget. But are they filled?
To my understanding is yes, they are.
Filled. Okay. All right, thank you. I'm in favor of a consultant, but let town meeting decide, but thank you.
Okay, Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the town manager, I don't want to be gloom and doom, but you're gonna hire somebody, they're gonna come on board, they're gonna get all the amenities of a regular employee.
Correct.
They could be the greatest person in the world who knows Munis through and through. What if they're not a good teacher? And what do you do when the department can't grasp what's going on? I don't know if you're training one in the department or all in the department, but what do you do if the department can't come up to speed on it and they can't grasp it?
I guess the bluntest way for me to put it, that I'm of the opinion that employees will do their job, and if they're not capable of doing their job and I can't find somewhere else for them, they're gone. You know, we're running a business here.
This is how I'm looking at it, is I've been running a business a long time, and we have to start looking at it that way. If people are not willing to train or be trained, I don't want to see us coming back here and saying, well, we need somebody else in this department, they're going to be the Munis person.
Yeah, I
And
can
then when
assure you
people
that,
go on vacation, are you going to go down there and do the Munis for them, or is somebody, you know what I mean?
as long as I'm here, that will not be the case. Again, if we have employees who cannot be successfully trained,
Because I was
if
sold
I can't
on,
find another place for them, then they will be gone. We're not in a position, for example, where I can have 4 receptionists. I just don't have that luxury.
because I was sold on the fact, and I was happy that everything was going to come together, and I'm a little nervous. I'm not skeptical. I'm just a little nervous that this one position, and then there'll be like an aide or an assistant to this person, because it's a real undertaking, and they're not grasping it fast enough, and we're going to get them somebody else to help it along. And then it turns into, we now have a IT teaching squad going on.
Yeah. I think the real issue here is that they thought that the assistant director would be available more than she is, and that her demands, frankly, at both ends of Pearl Street are such that she's not able to spend 90% of her time on this, and they discovered that somebody's got to.
And the only other thing about maybe hiring a consultant or getting somebody from Munis as opposed to a full-time employee is, if they're not pulling their weight and not helping you, you just flick the switch and they're gone. We have nothing tied to them. We have no commitment to them. I don't know what's going to happen if this person isn't a good trainer. Then we got to go find another spot.
And I guess what I can say is, there's a misnomer, and I can tell you that after 40 years in the business, It's not any harder to fire a municipal employee than it is a private employee. It's not a pleasant part of my job, but I can't count on my fingers the number of people I've had to fire in that 40 years, and I'm not hesitant to do it. You know, I'm paid to implement best practices, and by golly, that's what I do.
That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you, madam.
John?
I think you were, she was first.
It's in your hand. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. What's the anticipated timeline for hiring this position if it's approved? Hello? What's the anticipated timeline for hiring this position if it's
Well,
approved?
it turns out coincidentally that in a position we recently filled in the accountant's office, there was a candidate who was not offered the position, who is eminently qualified to do this job. So that is where we would start. If in fact that individual were willing to accept the position, then it would be a relatively quick time frame. He would have to give his current employer a notice, and that person could come. But this is a person who personally oversaw installation of Munis in another community.
And as a follow-up, if that person is unavailable, what's the, regular time frame for that? I'm just thinking because of if there was the delay to the November meeting, if that would delay the hiring, if the hiring was, a long enough time frame, if it would even be beneficial to approve this now as opposed to at the November meeting, in the event that the money on the Harper's payroll system could be saved. If that makes sense.
I think they would still be available. They're interested in leaving the community they're in now. They're interested in coming to work for us. Or at least, again, to the point where they interviewed for a position in the accountant's office.
Okay, John?
I'm convinced there's a need for someone, a consultant or, I guess, an employee. I'd like to see, I go along with what Ed said, hire a consultant until the town meeting and then present it at town meeting. And then if it's approved, maybe this person would be the consultant, or I don't know, you could hire them at that time. I would also like to see, I'm really leery of adding new positions. We've added a lot of new positions since I've been on the Finance Committee, a lot. And I'd like to see the funding for this position carved out of identified savings in all the departments, since it's going to benefit all the departments. And I would ask the departments to come up with 1% or whatever. That's how I would like to see new positions funded now. We can't keep adding new positions. It's needed, I'm sympathetic, but I'd like, this is a town-wide, department-wide position, and I would think this early in the fiscal year that you could go back to department heads and ask them to identify savings, anticipate savings, or ways they could cut back, and then present that at town meeting that, look, this is, mostly funded. So that would,
I guess my reluctance to do that would be that would require reopening every single departmental budget, and that's something I don't care to risk, frankly. I think Eric's coming out to tell you your mic's not on. You're right, there are turnbacks every year. There may in fact be turnback in school. It may be possible they are the largest budget, that they could completely absorb it. But at this stage of the game, the superintendent's not willing to take that risk, and frankly, I don't blame her. It's awful early in the fiscal year. I mean, for the same reluctance you guys have in not wanting to spend your reserve fund, it's awful early in the fiscal year.
Okay, John, you have one more
I just
thing?
one more you kept saying that only 10% of this person's time is supposed to be used towards town hall style stuff. But the Munis system is for the whole town, so if 100% of our time is being used for Munis, it's for the school and the town. It's not like we're taking their time away. Munis is the whole town system. It's not just the town hall system. So that's why I keep getting confused when you say she should only be doing 10% of her time on this, and she's doing 100%.
That's more of a question for the superintendent than me. She's not my employee.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, the Munis system is a town-wide system. It's not a town hall
It is a
system.
town-wide system, and many of the
I don't-
problems we're having are at the other end of Pearl Street. But I would not be truthful if I didn't say there were problems at both ends. And this person has been swamped, and thus far, she's been willing to put in the time that's necessary. I think the other side of it is I believe this person also teaches a couple of classes, and that means once school starts, she has less time available.
I get it. No, I kept getting stuck with that 10% thing, so. All right, thanks.
Okay, and I had one question. You said that you needed the 48,000 for the position. Does that include the benefits? Because when I asked it, the answer that I got is, yes, it would be a full-time benefited position, costing roughly 70,000 in benefits if the hire takes the family medical plan, so I'm assuming it's 70,000 with the benefits. So is the 48,000 with the benefits? Or if not, where is the money for the benefits coming from?
The money for the benefits would come from the money that's in the health trust fund right now.
So there's enough money in there to cover an additional
This early in the
person.
fiscal year, spending would indicate that there is.
Okay. All right, so, and I think
We would, however, have to account for it in next year's budget.
I'm sorry, you didn't?
In other words, it may have an impact on the
Next
health
year.
and medical fund next year.
Okay.
This year, it would not.
Okay, so this year we're covered, but it would cost somebody else next year. Okay, so, Roberta, you have one more comment?
I do. I have one more question. I waited for the question to be asked. How did we ever expect a person who also teaches classes in information technology to be one of the key people that was going to implement the Munis system? I don't know how that was ever figured.
Unfortunately, that's not a question I can answer. That would be a question that the superintendent would have to answer.
But my point is this: the superintendent is the superintendent of schools. That is one department within the town. We have many other departments. You are the town manager. Why did we ever agree to the fact that we would have the assistant information technology manager also have to spend time in the classroom and all the duties and responsibilities that go that? Why didn't we have another full-time person being the assistant? I don't understand that part of it.
Okay. Joyce tells me that she's actually not a classroom teacher. We were led to believe that she is, that she handles a robotics program, but
She assists in the classroom? So it's either one
she
or the
may.
other.
She didn't say she did.
Excuse me, please?
Joyce said she may. I don't think we
She
really
may.
know.
We have two members of the school committee here tonight. Do they know what's going on in the school department?
I don't think that's fair.
What do these people do?
Yeah.
I'd like to know what she's doing now.
Thank you. She was hired as an assistant director to help us through the conversion. We were just this year moved 2,000 of our students, both middle school and elementary school, and all the staff to Google Classrooms. She does all of our employee instruction. I believe she does employee instruction for the town as well. That she assists in the classroom, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't believe that teaching is part of her normal workload, but I can imagine she would assist. Her background certainly is. with some classroom instruction as well, and as well as, items like robotics and engineering background. But she does all of our training, webpage update. We have a new webpage that launched just this past week, or is being launched. And like I said, her biggest focus is a transition to all the staff to be able to use the Google Classroom tools and then to get all the accounts set up for the students.
So we have a person whose main function, according to you, is support of teaching staff and classroom responsibilities, assisting in classroom. We expected that person to then have enough time to help to implement the Munis system. I don't know how that was ever contemplated.
I think that's essentially the decision that was made, yes. When we decided to go with Munis, we made it clear to the school department, the IT department, that we would need support. This was what they came to us with for support.
I think we should have a...
In hindsight, we probably should have hired another body. I'll admit my hindsight's 20/20, but it was not anticipated at the time. I believe that they thought legitimately that this person would be able to do it, and they've since discovered that she's only one person and she can't.
So what's the quickest route, Mr. Town Manager, to get a person on board who is an expert in Munis?
In our mind, the quickest way, especially since we know of an individual who was interested, was to do the employee part. But again, we do recognize the concern that the Finance Committee has. It's early in the fiscal year, which is why we talked about the possibility of replenishing your reserve fund. None of us anticipated that we were going to have to spend $70,000 to replace a heating system. Yet, Paul Jaffoon was in that room with this very committee 3 weeks ago to replace a heating system. But the quickest route would be the employee, frankly.
Thank you.
Okay, what is the wish of the committee? Does anybody want to make a motion? Up, down? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to deny the transfer.
Can we do that?
I didn't hear the motion.
To deny
Motion
the-
was to deny the transfer.
Do we have to,
Question?
do we have to have a positive motion and then vote it down, or do we have to, can we have a negative motion? Where's Howard? Howard, can we have a negative motion?
Yeah.
I don't recommend.
Okay, so can you make a
Right.
motion to approve and then the committee can vote it down? Hmm?
I think you could do a motion.
You can make.
Nobody wants to make a motion to
Okay.
I'm not a parliamentarian.
Right, then it won't pass. Oh, see, if nobody makes a motion, does it, you think I don't?
Nobody's made a second.
So nobody's made a second, okay.
All right.
Oh, Elliot seconded it.
Yeah.
Elliot
All right,
seconded
well, I didn't hear it.
it. Okay.
So that's-
Okay, so that's the motion, to deny the transfer. Okay?
We're going to
everybody
have any
knows?
discussion on that, or can we offer an alternative motion?
If this one fails, we can,
Okay.
okay? Or do you, well, you know what? I'm willing to listen because I like people to have choices, so tell me if it fails, what would your choice be? It's not going to be a motion, just your idea.
Well, I like that idea with the consultant, and we'll let town meeting decide about funding the position, just to keep the process moving along. Maybe this guy who's real interested can moonlight or something, and maybe you can do a series of 5,000 procurements. You don't have to go out to bid and all the other happy stuff. I don't know, but I'd like to motion, maybe take 10,000 from the reserve and take 10,000 from the approved article for the software for 20,000 and use that for the consultant.
Okay,
That's what I was
so
thinking about.
now you guys will know that if you don't like this one, you vote it down, there's going to be another option. Okay, so all those who want to deny this motion, because that's what the motion is, say aye. Raise your hand. I would like to raise your hands. Raise your hands. Okay, oh, I have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Okay, all those opposed? 2. 11 to 2. The motion is denied, so you're not getting your 48,000.
I guess, Madam Chair, I would not need the committee's authorization to take money from the article. I already can.
Okay. 'Cause I was
So
gonna
the
say-
second part of what Ed suggested can just be, a suggestion.
I'll take it from the article, and we'll replenish it at town meeting if it comes to that, whatever it might be, but
Well, he was doing 10
Because-
from us and 10 from
Right,
the
because I was going to say, if you want to come back and ask, you know, with a motion asking, if you want to come back and ask for a temporary consultant and redo it, I think the committee would be willing to listen.
Yeah, I guess my request would be,
well, he can
In
take
terms of
20
what
from
Ed said is-
his article, but he's kind of tight.
at
I don't know.
10K for...
I'd say take 10 from the reserve and take 10 from the article and park 20 and then use that for the consultant until town meeting decides what they want to do.
Town meeting. Okay, can you do that? You think I'd know.
You already voted on this request.
So we
The request
denied.
was already turned down. Unless you're going to have somebody, in my opinion, unless somebody's looking to reconsider, the vote was taken.
Okay. So you can always come back. We're here. Okay?
Okay.
Yes.
I will make a motion that we reconsider so that in the interest of expediency, so that we can vote on another motion.
Okay, second. Okay, all those in favor of reconsidering, say aye. Okay.
Someone just make
Is there a new motion?
I'll make a substitute motion, I guess.
Is there a substitute motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we take 10,000 from the reserve account and 10,000 from the article for the software account and, I don't know, park it on the side somewhere for the consultant for a total of $20,000.
Second.
Yeah, for the town manager, his discretion, right?
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Paul. Okay, so there's a second.
Question on that.
I just want to ask, what's in the reserve?
What's in the reserve?
180?
It would be 180.
Yeah, plus
After the 10, it's gone?
No.
180
We
per...
have 180 now.
We have 180 right now.
130 plus 50 for the fuel.
In your wisdom, you increased it this year by
The
50,000.
250, right.
Thank you, Roberta.
Almost paid for that heating system we had to buy.
And that was Dr. Camacho's recommendation, so thank you. That was very thoughtful. Okay, so now we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the
I
new
have a
motion?
question on this.
What?
I have
you
a
have
question on
Go
this.
ahead.
Ed, you would move to authorize 10,000 from the reserve, and assuming there was still money left for the, from the article, he could use 10,000 from there for the consultant. So essentially, you're just authorizing $10,000 to be used for a consultant. The article speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can actually hire consultants with the article, and we have to do the chart of accounts, for example.
So just to clarify, the vote would really just be to authorize $10,000 to be used for a consultant. We really don't have any say in how the article speaks for itself, so we don't have any say with that money. He has it, he can use it. I just wanted to
Yeah, I understand
make
that,
sure it's
but-
understood that we're only authorizing $10,000.
Yeah, that's what we're authorized. He can do what he wants, but if we don't do anything or he don't do anything between now and town meeting, then nothing happens. Unless he wants to spend 20 off his article or find it somewhere else, I don't know. But,
No, I was just clarifying, the only thing this committee is doing is authorizing $10,000 for a consultant.
right, okay, so amend the motion for 10,000 for a consultant for the munis, for school department, whatever that is, only, nothing for nothing else.
Second.
Just one,
You have one quick
one question, not to beat the head. This is something that you think would help you move along the process?
If we can get this individual to come in and moonlight, to use Ed's word, because he does have a full-time job, and I'm certain he wouldn't be willing to come in without an actual offer of employment, it should keep us moving. If not, then I don't know how long it will take us to procure the services of a consultant, but we'll certainly try to do so.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, could you read it back, Joanne?
Well, actually, I have two motions here.
Yeah, there are two motions on the floor.
Okay, so the motion that Ed took the friendly amendment for, go ahead, Ed, say it one more time then.
Approve $10,000 for the consultant for the munis system for the school department side, for that person, whatever their intent is at the town manager's discretion, a transfer. I don't know if it's really a transfer, it has to go somewhere, I'm not sure where it would go, but maybe town manager's budget, I'm not sure, but,
So your motion is to take $10,000 out of the finance reserve in order to pay for a consultant for this, for the IT
munis for
person.
the IT, well, not for a person, for the services to be rendered to keep the process
$10,000
moving.
transfer.
Right.
Okay. Now, is there a second? Second. Okay, so John's going to second it. Okay. Rock. Okay, thank you, sorry. Okay. All those in favor of this motion, raise your hand. Okay, good, unanimous.
Unfortunately, I'm also here for item number 4,
For the next one.
because Karen could not make it
Madam
tonight.
Chair,
Yes.
was the previous motion withdrawn? Or is it still on the floor?
The one that said to hire it with the consultant?
Yeah.
That one, you mean the one to get the 20, that one, he re-amended with a friendly amendment, so it went away.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to do the second one. All right. To increase in the Youth Commission's revolving account. Go ahead, give me the presentation.
Very briefly, the statute allows the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, by simple majority vote, to increase the amount of money in a revolving fund. Revolving fund is all fee-derived revenues. There's no tax dollars involved, and in no circumstances can the department that has the revolving fund expend more money than is in the revolving fund. So in this particular instance, Karen McDonald has asked that the Youth Commission revolving fund be increased from $10,000 to $50,000. They may not collect the entire $50,000, but this was the number she came in with. It was reviewed by the Board of Selectmen at their last meeting and adopted with minimal discussion.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? John?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the town manager. Just so I'm clear, this request is allowing them to spend that much out of the revolving fund.
Provided it's
Right.
in the revolving fund.
Providing the money
Correct.
exists. Because right now, they're limited to spend 10.
Correct.
So no matter what they accumulate through donations, fees, what have you, even if they had the 50,000, they couldn't spend it. They
You're
could-
capping them at
So
50.
all they're looking for is the authorization to spend up to 50,000 out of their revolving fund, if in fact they could get it up that high and there's no tax money involved.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. I'm certainly in favor of this.
Okay, Ed?
It's on here. How did we arrive at 50,000? I'm just kind of curious where that number came from. Why not 25 or 30, or why 50?
That was the number she felt that given some of the things she's looking at right now, that she felt she might be able to generate in fee revenue.
Because based on the warrant, they took in about $10,000 last year. So you're going to go from 10 to 50 or 40, or just seems like
They have
pretty
been
big
asked to
move.
do a lot under Youth Commission that they have not been asked to do before, and the people that have asked them to do it are willing to pay them for the service. So that is why the fund has to be increased, because there isn't sufficient money at the 10 to provide the services that they're being asked to provide.
And just for point of information, the Board of Health's fund, how big is that one? The, what they're allowed to do, or the total, or whatever.
I believe it's 75,000. I think it was amended, it had been 55,000, and I think the amount that was adopted by town meeting was 75,000.
No, because supposedly there's 200,000 in there, $271,000. I was just wondering, well, that's the total.
Well, there might be 200,000 on the books, but a revolving fund has to be approved every year, and a spending cap has to be placed on it
Okay.
every year by town meeting.
All right, thank you.
John?
Given that this will have no effect on the town finances, I make a motion to approve increasing the limit of the Youth Commission revolving fund from $10,000 to $50,000.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Because I feel like there might be other people with other questions. Okay, apparently not. All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Okay. All opposed? None. It's unanimous. Okay.
Thank you. On behalf of Karen, thank you.
All right, so then the last thing that we're going to do is approve the minutes for May 18th, 2015. You should have all had them. I sent them out. You should have read them. Is there any corrections, changes?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay,
I wasn't
so-
on the committee at that.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 4, 5. Okay, raise your hand so Joanne can write it down. Roberta, are you abstaining?
No.
Oh, for anybody who's abstaining, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you wanted, I thought you were saying who.
No, just for the abstaining, so she can see who's abstaining. Okay? Yeah, basically it was everybody who wasn't there. Okay. Okay. Anything else? There was Scott?
I don't know if I'll ask this or make it a motion, but some of us, the iPads, hang on, Cynthia, I know you can't hear me, but. Madam Chairwoman, I'll make this as a nice request, please. Some of us don't have iPads up and running, and I know emails go back and forth, but we are all members of this board, and I think that we should be included. I don't know if we're going to get them the same day that it happens. I'm sure we won't. But I would like that every bit of correspondence that comes into here that pertains to every member gets it. Not that it gets scrutinized and should it get to us and how it gets to us, or if somebody else reviews it and says, I'll let you know about it later if it goes any further. I want every member in this room to get every ounce, whether it's 1 word, 2 words, or 0 words.
I think that is a very fair request, and I want you to know that when we did the minutes, I made sure that everybody who was not on iPads, I asked Jamie to personally mail it to you, so hopefully you got that. The rest of the stuff basically came out as a package. I assumed yours was, you received yours. The email request, what I'm trying to do
The only
is...
reason why I asked is because I got my mail today.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. We just got our packets emailed yesterday, so I feel like when we got our emails, yours got mailed. I'll try to make sure that you get everything. Which brings up the second point, is that we did have a few email things go out, and basically it's got to be questions, because a lot of times when they come before us, we ask them for things and they say to us, I don't have that number. So I kind of thought if we asked questions a little bit ahead of time, then at least they knew what to be prepared with. So I'm sorry that you were not getting that, but that's why you got the hard copy tonight. The other thing is that when we are doing that, if you have a question, that's within open meeting law, to say to somebody, when you come tonight, we're going to want this number or that number or this number. But you cannot have a discussion, because once you start saying, oh, I think that's good, or I agree with this person, or whatever, then you start going into open meeting laws. So that's not allowed. So basically, if you have a question, like when we did the boiler, who's going to fix it, what's the money, things like that, please feel free to ask it, only so that when they come here, they're more prepared. So Scott, I don't know how to get you in on that if you don't have email, unless you want to give me a call when we're having a meeting and I'll tell you what's going on, and then if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to email it. Because otherwise, I don't know what else to do.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't like to telegraph how I'm going to vote on it. My mind could be made up one way and it could change when that person stands here.
Absolutely.
I did that when I was on the Board of Selectmen. I will not telegraph what I'm doing
we don't want
beforehand.
to.
And as far as I'm concerned, pretty much that's what emails do. Once you get 4 or 5 together and somebody, and
Right.
all inadvertently does that, and I'm not going to
Right.
be brought into that mix, and pinned to it. I've already
And
been to
I
federal court.
I agree with you. That's why when you saw it, these were the questions. There was nothing in there that was any kind of a discussion. It's just, this is what you're going to need.
This is how I look at it. All of us are adults. A lot of us have served on many other committees. If I get a question to ask that night, and if they can't answer it, then I feel bad for them.
I do too,
I'm not
but
going to put myself in the hot seat of preempting what they're going to say to get it passed or get it done right, and it's not done right because somebody else might have a different question.
oh, yeah, absolutely. When you're here and that night, feel free to ask the questions. It's just that sometimes I want to know.
John
No,
knows
thanks.
as well as I know, when we were on another place together, we didn't take anything in that night.
Okay. All right. If you guys don't want to do it, let me know, and I'll do it. But I kind of thought that it would be more helpful if they did it. So the rest of you can let me know how you want to do that. But it just seems like if they come here and they're prepared and they have the numbers, then we don't have to say to them,
Well-
oh, you're going to have to come back because we don't have that.
Your other option there is if somebody has a question to come back into town hall to make sure they have the information, just send it individually from
Okay, we
the
can do that
person
too.
asking the question, send it individually to the town hall, and that way there is no,
Okay, we
there's
can do
no,
it
there's
that way.
no question about becoming a discussion or violating the open meeting law.
Okay, we can do it that way. Instead of saying reply all, everybody just send in your individual
You can
questions,
just,
and when they
you
come
can
up,
just
they'll
send
have
your
the-
question in the town hall, that way you don't have to worry about it.
We can do it that way too. I just wanted to make sure that people didn't think I was sneaking behind their back when I was asking these questions.
no,
But
no.
If you'd rather
Just
do it
giving-
that
I'm just
way,
giving the
I'm
option
fine
if-
with that too.
Just giving you the option, if you're concerned about getting into a discussion that would violate the law.
Yeah, just no
send your
discussion
questions in on your
whatsoever.
own.
Okay? All right. John, you have one more thing? Go
You
ahead.
know what, only thing I was going to suggest, and that's more a suggestion to you because you're the chairman, but maybe people might want to start thinking about what standing committees, committees, subcommittees they want to work on now, because now's when everybody starts making the budget. So if you are on the school budget thing, you might want to start focusing on what they're doing, because it's kind of hard to pay attention to every meeting that's going on and every discussion about budgets. But if you know you're going to be doing the school budget this year, that way you can sort of focus on watching the school committee meetings or going to them or whatever you want to do to get prepared. If we do it now rather than waiting until January when they've already done their budget and we're like, oh, we're trying to get caught up as to what their reasoning was and how they got there, it might just be easier.
Yeah,
just
so
a
that's
suggestion.
fine. If you guys want to send in what committee you would like to be on, I can start working on that and try to get everybody on a committee. So if you just kind of do that.
Are we sitting with the selectmen again this year?
I don't know. I will find out for you. It's a new Board of Selectmen. It's a new chairman. I don't know if we're going to be invited. So I will find out for you. Okay? All right. Did you
Well, yeah,
find it helpful?
I think you should ask.
I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
Do you think did people think it was helpful to be able to sit in on those meetings? Yeah? Okay. Then I will definitely ask and I will see what he says. Okay. Is there anything else? Go ahead, John.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Okay, good.